Thank you. The next item of business is consideration of Business Motion 20196 in the name of Graham Day on behalf of the Parliamentary Bureau on a change to business. Any member who wishes to speak to the motion should press their request to speak button now. And I call on Graham Day to move the motion.
Move, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Minister. No member has asked to speak to the motion. Therefore, the question is that motion 20196 be agreed. Are we all agreed? The motion is therefore agreed. The next item of business is topical questions, and at question number 1, I call Rona Mackay.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government, in light of the recent attack on the Jewish community at Bondi Beach in Australia, what steps are being taken to ensure community safety in Scotland?
First Minister.
Presiding Officer, the Scottish Government stands in solidarity with Jewish communities worldwide who face unimaginable grief following the horrific terror attack on Bondi Beach during the first night of Hanukkah. My thoughts are with all those who have lost loved ones, and we grieve each loss profoundly. Anti-Semitism is an evil we must confront wherever and whenever it takes place. The Scottish Government is committed to ensuring that Scotland's Jewish community is supported, free from fear, and able to continue contributing to national life. We are in close contact with Police Scotland and partners in education to ensure every community feels safe, including at places of worship, schools and universities. Last night I was honoured to speak at the Hanukkah celebration at Edinburgh City Chambers. Hanukkah is a celebration of light. It reminds us all that light is stronger than darkness. And during the rest of Hanukkah, let us remember that even in the darkest of times, hope and goodness will always endure.
Mackay.
I am glad to hear that the First Minister has shown his solidarity with the Jewish people by attending the Hanukkah event he spoke about in his answer. Will he join me in encouraging both members and the public to reject all hatred, discrimination and prejudice? And does he agree with me that language and how we act in words and deeds stand up to prejudice is vital in an age of misinformation?
Minister.
President Officer, it is absolutely vital that in all of the actions that we take, we are doing all that we can to reject hatred, discrimination and prejudice in our society. This is a particularly concerning and alarming time for the Jewish community in Scotland, and I have heard first-hand from members of the community, not just last night at the City Chambers in Edinburgh, but on other occasions when I have met with the community, of the profound fear and alarm that is felt by members of the community here in Scotland. There are steps being taken, have been taken and will continue to be taken to support the community in their safety. But in a democracy, no individual should live in fear of their safety. Individuals should be able to live their lives free from prejudice and hatred and in safety, and that will be the outlook and the approach taken by the Scottish Government to support the Jewish community as we support all communities in Scotland.
Mackay.
I thank the First Minister for that answer. I know the Scottish Government has supported both the STV appeal and the STUC in supporting community cohesion. Can the First Minister outline what this will do to support people to feel safe in their communities? First Minister.
So there are many steps that the Government takes through a number of our different activities to support community cohesion. Indeed, over the period around St Andrew's Day, we took forward a campaign which was on the theme that we are together Scotland, and the purpose of that campaign was to encourage and to promote that sense of community cohesion. We take this work forward by dialogue directly with the Jewish community in Scotland, and I've had a series of meetings, as have ministers and officials, with the Jewish community to encourage and to nurture the inclusion and cohesion that must be at the heart of a safe society for all. And the particular elements of project funding that Rona Mackay referred to are all taken forward with the objective of encouraging cohesion amongst our communities in Scotland, as that represents the fundamental approach the Government takes to encourage that sentiment within our society.
Jackson Carlaw.
As it happens, my former parliamentary aide, Ewan Waddell, is now working in Australia and lives in the Wentworth constituency at the heart of this ghastly attack. Yeah. He describes Wentworth as the Eastwood of Sydney. It is a community with a strong Jewish population, very familiar to him and to me and to my own Jewish community in Eastwood. And it's precisely for that reason that the atmosphere amongst the Jewish community has changed dramatically. Australia, Sydney, Wentworth was meant to be safe in the way that Scotland, Glasgow and Eastwood are meant to be safe. But if it can happen there, they now fear it will happen here. Yesterday I was contacted by parents of Calderwood Lodge Primary School. They are adults now who were children at the time of Dunblane. It's burned fiercely on their memory. Can the First Minister offer an assurance that he will ensure that Police Scotland look not just at places of worship, but at this incredible, unique school, the only joint Jewish-Catholic campus anywhere in the world, so that Jewish, Muslim and Catholic children who live, work and learn together in that school can continue to do safely, and that their parents can know that they will receive the full support of this Parliament and the community here in Scotland to ensure that they can.
First Minister.
President, so may I pay tribute to Jackson Carlaw in the force with which he expresses the thoughts and the aspirations of the community that he has faithfully represented in this Parliament, and also of the sentiments he shared with us from Wentworth. And it is powerful testimony that Parliament has to hear and has to take account of. I'm very familiar with the circumstances at Calderwood Lodge School, and I have been looking closely at some of the issues in relation to the security and the safety of the school, because in the light of well, our schools have got to be safe places in all circumstances, and that must apply to Calderwood Lodge School. I'm aware of some issues about security, which I am personally addressing, so I want to give Mr Carlaw that assurance that this issue is very much on my desk and I'm looking at it personally, and I will be taking steps to address these issues. I discussed the security of the Jewish community and places of worship, places of education with the Chief Constable yesterday. I was assured last night by members of the Jewish community that, sadly, in the aftermath of the Manchester attack and sadly in the aftermath of the Bondi Beach attack, Police Scotland, who already have very strong connections with the Jewish community, increased that engagement as a consequence, as I would expect would be the case. But specifically in relation to Calderwood Lodge Primary School, I want to assure Mr Carlaw of my direct personal attention on this question, and we may well have more to say about that in due course.
Paul O'Kane.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. And can I begin by associating myself and the whole of the Scottish Labour Party with the First Minister's remarks, and all those who have offered their condolences to family and friends of those who were murdered in the horrific anti-Semitic terror attack that occurred over the weekend in Australia. These vile acts of terror and anti-Semitic hate shock us at any time, but as Hanukkah gets underway, it is all the more painful for those within our Jewish community. And I would associate myself with the remarks of Jackson Carlaw in this question period. He and I know the communities so well in Eastwood and know the real sense of fear and the real sense of horror as to what has occurred, not just in Australia, but the potential that something may happen here at home. And I very much associate myself with the exchange on Calderwood Lodge. Calderwood Lodge is a symbol of hope and a beacon of the resilience of the Jewish community in Scotland. And I think over the last few days, none of us it could not have been moved, I think, by the shows and displays of resilience in the Jewish community as people came together to light their menorahs, to stand together and to stand against hate. And tomorrow at Calderwood Lodge Primary, the children there will be taking part in their Hanukkah play. And I don't think there's any greater way that they could show their resilience and their defiance and their desire to go on than to stand and join in song and to sing the songs of Hanukkah. So I would ask that the First Minister gives his support. Of course he will, I know, but his support to those children and young people and their teachers who will do that. And could he say in particular what consideration has been given to the security of the buildings over the holiday period, when we know there may be less people around and less people in the community, to ensure that nothing happens to those buildings in that time? First Minister.
I'm grateful to Mr O'Kane for his remarks, and I associate myself very much with his comment that the Calderwood Lodge Primary School reflects a symbol of hope in a world that has an awful lot of darkness about it just now. In relation to the forthcoming period, obviously these are some of the issues that we are currently considering to make sure that Calderwood Lodge School is properly supported at all times. But Mr O'Kane raises a reasonable and important issue about the holiday period that is coming up, and of course the engagement and the presence of Police Scotland is important in this respect. But I do assure him, as I assured Mr Carlow, that this issue is getting my personal attention at the present moment, and I will take forward the issues that Mr O'Kane has put to me.
Let's call Hamilton.
Presiding officer, many more members of Sydney's Jewish community might have perished had it not been for the unbelievably selfless and brave actions of 43-year-old Muslim man Ahmed al-Ahmed, a moving reminder of the common humanity that is shared by so many across all the religions of our world, that hatred only exists in the minds and hearts of a tiny minority. Yet those small few may have the capacity for sudden and devastating acts of violence. We saw that here in Manchester. Incredible work is taking place across the lines of faith in our communities to combat hate and intolerance. Can I ask the First Minister what his government will do to support those cross-community endeavours?
First Minister.
So, Mr Cole-Hamilton puts to me the extraordinary example of Mr Al-Ahmed in the heroism that he deployed to save lives. And it is an example, in amongst all this darkness, that there is light by the service and the sacrifice that individuals are prepared to make. The Scottish Government, as I set out in my earlier answers, actively works to support interfaith dialogue in Scotland and also to support community cohesion within Scotland. Some of the materials that I talked about around St Andrew's Day were designed to have exactly that purpose of bringing communities together, reflecting our diversity but also our togetherness as a consequence. The Government has also taken a very close involvement in, and I've taken a personal interest and involvement in, the Drumlanrig Accords, which have been supported to encourage greater dialogue between the Muslim and the Jewish communities, and these are now being viewed as seminal agreements around the world, which are about bringing faiths together and to promote the understanding and the tolerance that is necessary within our society. And I give Mr Cole-Hamilton the assurance that that interest and that attention will be sustained by the Government.
Sharon Dowie.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I condemn the horrific anti-Semitic attack in the Jewish community at Bondi Beach in Australia. England uses a digital GP marker in firearms licensing, meaning doctors get an automatic flag if a patient with a mental health illness has access to firearms. Can the First Minister explain why Scotland does not currently have an equivalent digital system and whether this has been considered?
First Minister.
I don't know the specific answer to that question, Presiding Officer, but I'll find it out. Obviously, we have very significant constraints in place in relation to access to firearms, and we have licensing arrangements that are very restrictive in that respect. But that does not, does not exclude the possibility of firearms getting into hands of individuals who do not handle those firearms responsibly or appropriately. But let me find out the detail of the answer to the question that Sharon Dowie has put to me, and I'll write to her accordingly.
And Jeremy Balfour.
Thank you, President Officer. Can I also associate my remarks made by the First Minister, and I'm sure all of us in this chamber stand with the Jewish community here in Scotland and beyond. Would the First Minister agree with me that words do matter, and what people put on social media can sometimes lead to this type of event that happened on Sunday, and that all of us who have influence should be careful what we post, particularly when it comes to faith communities?
First Minister.
President Officer, I had a briefing yesterday from the Chief Constable which concentrated significantly on the dangers that individuals in our society are exposed to by online activity. And it was a truly chilling briefing of the detail that was shared with me yesterday. So I acknowledge and appreciate the point that Mr Balfour has put to me, because it represents a live and present threat, and it can result in changes in behaviours and changes in actions that can have catastrophic implications in our society. So the importance of all of us, and also I include in all of this the technology companies, being vigilant about the material that is posted online, is essential to provide us with as much protection as we possibly can do from the changes of behaviour that can result in the atrocities that happened in Bondi Beach.
Thank you. Question number 2, Sue Webber.
To ask the Scottish Government for what reason it has decided not to take forward changes in relation to national speed limits on single carriageways.
Cabinet Secretary Fiona Hislop.
A report summarising the findings from the National Speed Management Review was published yesterday after careful consideration of over 19,500 responses and the need to ensure that any changes to speed limits can be delivered and enforced with the support of the public in order to secure behaviour change and effective compliance. Ministers have determined not to take forward the proposal to reduce the national speed limit on single carriageway roads from 60 miles per hour to 50 miles per hour. Work is, however, progressing to increase speed limits for heavy goods vehicles on single carriageways from 40 miles per hour to 50 miles per hour and on dual carriageways from 50 miles per hour to 60 miles per hour, and these changes aim to improve journey time, reliability, reduce driver frustration and enhance safety across Scotland's road network.
Sue Webber.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary, because that's a victory for common sense. The Scottish Conservatives campaigned from the start against these unevidenced proposals, and unlike the SNP government, we were on the side of most Scots who did not want a change to the national speed limit. While it's good that work will continue to raise the speed limit for HGVs, as outlined in the Cabinet Secretary's response, will the Cabinet Secretary now guarantee that plans to reduce the speed limit to 50 miles an hour for cars and other vehicles will be permanently shelved? Yeah. And will she ensure that she won't seek to punish motorists with any other damaging policies?
Cabinet Secretary.
Can I first of all say that we have to be mindful, this is about road safety, this is about tackling deaths on our roads. 69% of car fatalities in Scotland occurred in 2024 on single carriageway roads with a national speed limit of 60 miles per hour. We will continue to use a whole range of different aspects of road safety to tackle this issue. This government is not pursuing the reduction for cars in terms of the national speed limit from 60 to 50. We will monitor the situation. There are different speed limits in different parts of the country, and we know it can make a difference. And I would refer the member also to the example of France, where they did reduce from 56 to 50 miles per hour, and they saved a situation where they saw a situation where there was a 10% decrease in road deaths. So, of course, we'll continue to monitor and analyse different road speeds on different types, but we are not pursuing, and ministers have determined, and I announced and wrote to the committee to make it clear that this government is not pursuing that reduction.
Sue Webber.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary, but motorists have had enough of this government. Yep. After frequently being egged on by the green benches, penalising them, ministers should be focused on delivering the long overdue upgrades to vital routes. I have not driven on French roads recently, but I doubt they're as pothole-ridden as ours. And we are desperate for the A9, the A75, the A77, the A96 and the A90 to be dualled. Instead, we've had this daft proposal, along with other anti-car ideas, that are in the pipeline, such as local authority congestion charges, punitive low-emission zones, the extrapolation of controlled parking zones, roads that continue to deteriorate. And while I welcome the move to drop this foolish idea to reduce the speed limit to 50, can the Cabinet Secretary guarantee for good that she will finally end the war on our motorists?
Cabinet Secretary.
I think that extreme language kind of betrays an understanding of the need to tackle road safety. I chair the National Partnership on Road Safety. We met just last week. That involves Police Scotland. That involves the Fire and Rescue Service, who have to deal with the deaths on our roads. It deals with our local authorities. It deals with COSLA. We all work together to drive forward improvements on our roads. That should be the focus of our attention. And in terms of the A9, is she not aware that there is work already happening on the third section? The fourth section is already commencing, and we're procuring the fifth section. If she wants to look at our figures on maintenance improvements, in 2023-24, it was 633 million. Last year, it was £872 million. And when we put forward budgets that have improvements in tackling our road maintenance, that have improvements in tackling our trout roads, and that has funding for the A9, guess what? Just like the lack of questions whoever has ever asked on speed limits, the Conservatives are missing in action.
Emma Harper.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Representing communities served by both the A75 and the A77, can I welcome the announcement by the Cabinet Secretary that work will progress to adjust speed limits for HGVs on single and dual carriageways? I have raised this previously with Transport Ministers. Can the Cabinet Secretary outline an indicative timescale for this work, and will she anticipate any changes being implemented on the trunk roads?
Cabinet Secretary.
So Emma Harper has pursued this issue, particularly in relation to the A75 and the A77 and the impacts, particularly with ferry traffic and the frustrations that obviously speed limits can cause. Other members have also made those representations. I can tell her that the work is progressing on the necessary legal and legislative steps to increase these HGV speed limits, but it's expected that they will be implemented following the Scottish Parliament election.
Neil Bibby.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Cabinet Secretary will be aware that I have raised the need for speed awareness courses on a number of occasions with the First Minister. Progress on this issue has been extremely slow, but I'd like to thank the Cabinet Secretary for her recent letter to me outlining the steps she has taken. I understand there was a meeting yesterday between Scottish Government officials and Home Office officials to discuss this matter. I assume, given these speed awareness courses have been operating in England for nearly 20 years, there will have been no objections raised by the Home Office to rolling these out in Scotland. So can I therefore ask the Cabinet Secretary when she expects these speed awareness courses to be rolled out in Scotland?
Cabinet Secretary.
Well, clearly there are a number of players involved in here, not least Police Scotland, but also the Crown Office and the Procurator Fiscal Service. It is correct that Scottish Government officials met with the Home Office just yesterday on this issue. He also will be aware that we will need to work with the UK Government to bring forward legislative change as soon as possible. So part of the discussions, and I'm hoping and anticipating there may be a transport piece of legislation in the UK that may be helpful in taking these matters forward.
Mark Ruskell.
Presiding Officer, I recognise the large numbers of people who responded to the Government's consultation, but to be honest, I'm more concerned about the 1,978 people who were seriously injured on our roads last year and the 146 people who lost their lives. Now, this Government has raised expectations that it would deliver a measure that would have saved lives. Dropping the speed limit to 50 miles an hour would have saved lives. So, can I ask the Cabinet Secretary, what does she now say to communities such as Blair Drummond, such as Dunkeld, many rural communities who have campaigned for safer speed limits, common sense safer speed limits around their communities? What will this Government do to pick up the delivery of safer speed limits and save lives?
First, Cabinet Secretary.
So part of our discussions at the National Road Safety Partnership Boards was with Road Safety Scotland's the speed management activity. There's new technology that actually helps in terms of monitoring, in terms of enforcement. So we're using new technology and deployments. But of course, the reported road casualties report 2024, which was published in October last year, showed that the key aspects and those contributory factors to collisions are behaviour or inexperience, 78%, speed-related 34%, and distraction or impairment 28%. So we have to tackle this in a whole variety of different areas, but speed does make a difference, and he knows from his pursuit of the 20 miles per hour in our towns and villages and across Scotland that once communities have that, they don't want it to go back. And also we're starting to see the evidence from both Borders and Highlands of what an impact that's making.
Christine Graham.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer. I say to Sue Webber, the Government did the right thing. It consulted and, more importantly, listened. So I am pleased the Scottish Government is not pursuing the 50-mile-an-hour limit. I say this having experienced decades of driving Borders and Midlothian roads, for example, the twisting A7 and A701. The Minister will also be aware of the welcome introduction of variable limits, for example, 40 miles an hour on approach to villages, then reduced to 20 miles an hour as you pass through the village. Further, does the Minister agree with me, Cabinet Secretary, agree with me that reducing it might have caused more problems than it solved, even more unsafe overtaking, for example, and that the 60-mile-per-hour limit is a limit, not a recommendation, as all drivers should know? Cabinet Secretary.
I do agree with Christine Graham. This Government does consult and it responds to consultations. I don't think that is the position of the Conservatives. I think they would see Government just consult on what they wanted to do in any case. So this is a responsive Government. But you have to take people with you if you're looking at road safety. The member is right that some Borders roads already have staggered speed limits. We're taking steps to increase the HGV speed limits precisely because of the issue of frustration and overtaking. But we will be working with borders councils and indeed others to look at what the impacts are on road casualties of different types of roads and different standards of single carriageways. And that engagement will include local authorities, Police Scotland and others to look at the differences between variable speeds and different rural areas where we already have some at 50 miles per hour and some at 60.
And Finlay Carson.
I welcome the increase in the speed of HGVs from 40 to 50 miles an hour, as will all my constituents in Galloway, who regularly get held behind lorries in A75 and A77. It's almost 6 years since I started the campaign to get these increased by writing to Michael Matheson in 2020. But that's one step on improving our roads. Can the Cabinet Secretary set out a timetable for improvements to the A75 and A77, which will further reduce deaths on these roads?
Yeah. Cabinet Secretary.
So, for brevity, I'll refer the member to the answer I gave him during the debate, or was it the questions last week, on these issues, where I set out a whole range of improvements that have taken place. And obviously, we're working on the Crawford and Spring Home bypass work, and also he'll be familiar, because I've written to him as well, about some of the issues around speed awareness that we're having there. But I went through the list of the issues that cause collisions. We are systematically working through every single one of this, and obviously road safety is paramount in all of it, whether it's A75, A77 or indeed other roads.